Hello everyone, and welcome to part 2 of this Derive workshop on interior tiling. And in this part we're gonna be creating the colors for our tiles and our gaps. In the first video we created this pattern that we see here, and we stored it in a variable that we will access later. But now let's get to creating the colors. So we want these tiles and these tiles to have different colors. And we could use uniform colors. That would make it very simple, but we want to make something a bit more interesting. So let's get started. First, I'm going to create a noise node, and I'm going to modify the settings here to get a more interesting look, like this. This is kind of what I'm looking for. Actually, let's make it like this, maybe even more. Like, okay, this is something that I quite like. And now look up the lerp node and plug that in. So we're gonna lerp between two colors based on this noise, whereas black means one color and white means the other color. And I just realized I forgot something. Because noise doesn't map seamlessly by default, we need to add a seamless mapping node. So we can later tile our texture, and I'm going to set the fall off to 1. This looks kind of symmetrical, but that won't matter in our final output. Now, we're going to need two colors, color 1 and color 2. And I'm going to plug them in here. You can rename the color nodes individually. In fact, you can rename all data nodes so you can find them later if you need to modify them. But I'm not going to do it in this video because I usually have a good overview over which color is. And I'm going to use a gradient as a base of lerping between two mixes of colors, but I'm going to show you in a minute. Now first let me select like a dark blue and a light blue for this, something like this. This is what we're going to get, our first color mix. And our second color mix is going to be basically the same. Just copy paste it. All I'm going to do is I'm going to select the noise node, and I'm going to randomize the values so we don't get the same pattern. And now I'm going to go to the color, and I'm going to choose something more tealish, and I want to make it brighter. So this is our second color mix, and now we're going to use a third lerp node and use a gradient to lerp between the two. And I'm going to first rotate the gradient, say -90, and plug that in here. And this is the color that our upper and lower tiles are going to get. And to do that, just so it works correctly, or that it maps correctly, I want to make sure to tile it 3 by 3. Okay, that should work. Actually, let me just decrease the Y tiling on the noise back to 10, because I think that's better, because when we tile it, it's too fine otherwise. Okay, and don't worry that we have colors here in the middle. We're gonna mask them out later, but for now let's create our second color. Our second color will be, now actually let's first save this. Set color, set variable, and we're gonna name this color 1. And now we're gonna create color 2. Again, gonna use a noise node, increase the octaves, and choose a rather large scale, 10, maybe 100. 100 looks good, I think. And lerp again Actually, let me tile this differently, like... no, I liked it better the way it was, so I keep it at that. Maybe. Oh, this doesn't look too bad, does it? I'm going to stick with 200. 200 is good. And I'm going to use... I forgot the seamless mapping node again. You shouldn't forget that because you're going to get seams that you don't know where they come from in the final output, and you will have a hard time finding out where they come from if you forget a seamless mapping node after a noise node. And for the tilings in the middle, I want to use 2 different shades of red. Yeah, I'm going to make this a bit darker. And this a bit brighter just so I get a little more contrast. Like this is actually looks okay. Just for the sake of trying, let me see what happens if I use a step node and have a very sharp transition between the colors instead of having instead of having a smooth transition. Oh no, I don't think I quite like that. I want to keep it the way it was. And this is going to be the color of our tiles in the middle. And last but not least, we need a color for the gaps, and I'm going to use the same setup again. I call this, let me just store it in a variable, set variable, and say this is our color 2. And now on to the color of our gaps. We're going to pick something like, I'm going to use the same node for everything because it works just fine. And we don't need colors because our gaps will be a dark gray. So we're going to lerp between, say, 0.2 and 0.4 uniform gray, maybe even 0.3 uniform gray. And actually we can make this even smaller, and let's decrease the tiling to 0.2. Yeah, that's more like what I want. So this is going to be the color of our gaps. Still not quite satisfied. Okay, I'm gonna go with this. Okay, so we need to save this as well. Call this color 3, or you can call it color gaps, whatever you want. But now we have created 3 colors that we're going to use with our pattern in the last part of this workshop to put everything together and see how it looks. All right, and that is it for this part. Tune in for the next part, and let's see what we get in the preview once we finish everything up. So see you in part 3.